Hey guys, it's Leah, and I am so sorry that it's been like 12 years since I've sat down and talked to a camera. But I decided that, hey, I'm gonna try and get back into this thing and hope I do it a little bit better than last time. And basically, this video is gonna be a little bit different than what I normally do, but I'm really looking forward to incorporating more of talking about my Crohn's disease into this channel and into my videos. So basically this video is going to be kind of an introductory about it, and it's going to be my Crohn's disease story / what is Crohn's disease, because I doubt most of you know. No shame in it, no one really knows unless you have it. So as you notice, my channel name is actually 77 Purple Ribbons, which unless you know me personally, you probably don't understand why. 77 has nothing to do with Crohn's disease or purple ribbons. It's just when I used to play softball, that was the number that was always on the back of my jersey. I always had that number and it was my number. So even after I stopped playing softball, which as you know I don't anymore, my number still kind of stuck with me. It's kind of like a tag, I guess. Yeah. And then purple ribbons is the main part of this video, because purple ribbons are actually the ribbons for Crohn's disease, which it's not a secret. I don't keep it a secret. I don't look for people's pity about it. I don't want extra attention or to be handled with little kid gloves, as I like to say. I'm still me, just with Crohn's disease. The way I explain it to people simply is that your immune system's pretty confused and a lot of messed up, and it thinks that the good bacteria in your digestive tract is actually bad, so it attacks it and it makes like your intestines and your stomach all inflamed and all angry. And it sounds disgusting, but you know what? Oh well. So basically in this video, I'm just going to tell you my story and my personal experience with this disease and hopefully bring light to it and bring awareness. So to start off, I guess I should start from the very beginning. As a young teen or a preteen or whatever you want to call it, I always had like stomach pains and really bad cramps, but a lot of doctors just dismissed it as, oh, you're just becoming a woman, you're growing up, it's no big deal, you'll grow out of it. And then my family and I were, okay, that's fine. And then a couple years later, after I had dealt with this for about 2 years throughout all of middle school, it got to the end of my 8th grade year. And I remember it was April 15th to be exact, because I was dating a guy at the time and it was his birthday. And I woke up, I was in such bad pain that the only reason I went to school was because I had plans to see him that evening. So the next day I woke up and it hadn't gone away, it had actually gotten a lot worse, and I could hardly get out of bed, it hurt so bad. And if people asked me to describe it, I described it as if you ever had a really, really good ab workout where you just did 1,000 sit-ups, and you know the next day your stomach's all tight and it hurts so bad and you can hardly move and it hurts to breathe. Take that times 100. And that's Crohn's disease, or at least for me. If I remember correctly, it was Wednesday of the week after the 15th that I first had the pain that we went to the doctor for the first time. And at the doctor, they did a few tiny tests where like you laid on the table and they pushed on your stomach. And for those of you who don't know, if your stomach is really rigid and really tight, that means there's something wrong with it. And mine was tight as a board, you could hardly push down on it. And then they did this test where they would push down on your stomach and then they would let go to see what hurt more. I remember if he pushed down on my stomach and I was like, okay, this hurts a lot, and then he let go and I wanted to scream. And so he ran a few more tests and he gave me medication for an infection that he thought I could possibly have, and said, if you don't feel better in 2 days, come back, we need to take some action on this. We saw his daughter on Friday and she said basically, we're looking at you might have appendicitis, which in the back of my head I was kind of thinking, I've had this for like 2 weeks, wouldn't I be dead by now if I had appendicitis? But I mean, what are you gonna do? You can't really argue with your doctors. They went through like, what, 6 years of medical school or whatever it is? And then basically she said, she left the room for a little bit, and she came back and she said, we're going to admit you to the local hospital for the night. Remember how I said the night. And they're going to put an IV in, they're going to give you some fluids, they're going to give you the same medication that you're taking orally except through an IV, because it's a lot stronger, and maybe if this infection is really bad, that will kill it off. And then you're gonna get a CAT scan too. So I was like, okay, hospital, that's terrifying, but you know what? Not gonna show it. And I remember they gave us time to go home and to pack up some things, pack up an overnight bag, and go to the hospital. So this was about 3 in the afternoon. I left the doctor's office and I checked into the hospital at, I wanna say around 6:30, 7 in the evening, because they said just get here in the evening. You don't really have much of a time frame as long as you get here, and we're gonna see what's going on. So we got to the hospital, we got checked in, got admitted, and I got my room and everything, and they put an IV in, and because I was only 14 at the time, I was on the pediatric floor, which, I mean, it was kind of cool. If you gotta be in a hospital, I might as well be in the same place where they have a whole bunch of fish on the wall. And then I remember I had to drink this terrible, terrible contrast, and I was supposed to drink a cup about this big of it. I could hardly take this much of it. And basically we sat in my room and we waited for a really long time for this CAT scan machine to be available. And it wasn't until I think 12 or 1 in the morning that it finally was, and they took me down. And so we got this CAT scan and we went to bed. And they said, if there's a lot of trouble or something that needs to take immediate action, we'll wake you up and we'll do what we need to do. And they woke us up at about 3, 4 in the morning, so 2 hours later after I had fallen asleep. They tried to just wake up my mom, who was sleeping in one of those like pull-out chairs next to me, but they woke me up too because I was a pretty light sleeper at this point because I was terrified. And so they said, there's nothing wrong with the CAT scan, we just wanted to let you know, have a good night, we'll wake you up in the morning. So we were like, okay, didn't need to wake us up to tell us that, but okay. And so basically it was that morning, and that morning was the first time I met with all the doctors who were going to be working on me. And I can't even remember how many doctors were in that room. I just remember they would come in the morning in this assembly line, and they would all do the same thing, and they would ask the same questions, and it was a lot. But there were just all kinds of people there. And they would come in, they would check you, they would see how you were doing, take your temperature, take your pain level, all of that. And then they could not figure out what was wrong with me. They kept giving me Cipro and Flagyl and to kill the infection, and they would give me Zofran because the Flagyl would make me nauseous, and they would give me all kinds of stuff. Remember how I said I was only going to be there 1 night? No, I was there for 5 nights. And my dad kept bringing clothes for me to keep changing into, and getting a shower was such a pain because when you're in a hospital, you're basically, I don't want to say your independence is taken from you, but you can't be as independent because you can't unhook your IV to get a shower. You have to have a nurse do that for you. You can't walk around the floor without someone coming with you in case you fall. I want to say that it was nice and relaxing in the fact that I knew if something was going to happen to me, where else would I rather be than a hospital with 100 doctors. But it was stressful in the fact that I hadn't been in school for 2 or 3 weeks at this point. I was so behind on makeup work. I was terrified that I was failing all my classes and I wasn't going to get to complete 8th grade and go on to high school because I got sick. On the 4th day, my gastrointestinal doctor said, I'm gonna do a colonoscopy and I wanna see if my suspicions of Crohn's disease are correct. At this point, I was so tired of listening to doctors go on about words that I didn't understand what they were, that I wasn't even listening. And my mom explained it to me later. She said, you're gonna have a colonoscopy and basically you're gonna put you to sleep and they're going to take a camera and look inside of your intestines. So I said, okay, that's nice. Basically, on the 5th day, they did the colonoscopy and they said, all right, you can go home. And so I was like, do I have whatever it is you were saying or what? And he goes, I think you do, but I need it confirmed by the labs, which we'll get back in a couple days and I'll give you a call. So, okay, I went home. I tried to get back into school. When I was released from the hospital, they gave me this medication called Pentasa. It was 2 blue pills taken 4 times a day, and they said, we're pretty sure you have Crohn's disease, and since you're still in a lot of pain, we want you to start taking this now. And if you don't have Crohn's disease, it's not really going to do much harm to you. And so I took this medication, 2 pills 4 times a day, and then a couple days later I had more pain. So instead of going to my pediatric family doctor, we went to my gastrointestinal doctor's facility, and he basically said, yeah, you have Crohn's disease. And at this point, I didn't really know what to think of it. I wasn't exactly sure what it was. I just knew that, okay, I'm 14 and I have this thing and there's no cure. And so I did what I think any 14-year-old would do, and I did a lot of online research about it. And I basically found a lot of stuff out about it, and here I am a year and a half later. It's gonna be 2 years in like 5 months, and I'm perfectly okay, I guess. I took these 2 Pentasa pills 4 times a day for almost the next year, and it wasn't really helping me as much as he wanted it to. I couldn't get my weight back up. And so he said at the end of 2014, he basically said, I want to start you on Remicade. Sorry about that change, my camera battery died. I had to plug it in. And so anyway, I started Remicade in January of 2015, which means in a couple weeks actually, it's going to be a whole year since my first dose. And for me, it's working so much better than Pentasa was. Basically, I'll say what it is first. You go to this room, you sit down in this chair, and it's a really comfortable chair, by the way. But you sit down in this chair and they give you a warm blanket, which is also really nice, especially in the winter. And they put an IV in, and they basically start you on the Remicade drug. If I had to explain what Remicade was, it's an intravenous low-dose chemotherapy drug. Now, don't freak out when I say chemotherapy, because a lot of people don't realize that chemo isn't always cancer chemo. Chemo can be actually used to treat a number of different autoimmune diseases, which is what Crohn's is. And it doesn't always, if it's low dose like mine is, it doesn't have the same side effects that cancer chemo does. I don't lose my hair, I have no idea what the side effects of actual chemo are. I don't lose my hair, I'm not strapped to a hospital bed for 7 days while I get this drug pumped into my body. No, I'm keeping my hair, obviously, it's real, I promise. And I'm strapped to a chair for 4 hours, and that's about it. And then basically what it is you get this medication. I get it right now, I get it every 8 weeks. But I have friends who get it as close as 4 weeks, and most of them get it 6 weeks. And that's what they're actually looking at moving me to, is 6 weeks. So basically, I get my Remicade, and in this room, like I said, are 4 or 5 other patients that you get to talk to, and it's really nice to sit there and hear their stories. And a lot of times I'm the youngest in my doctor's practice. Pretty sure I'm the youngest patient he has, or at one point I was. So I've only ever sat in that room with, I think there was someone who was 19, and I think that's the youngest I've been in that room with. But who knows, maybe there's another teenager like me now. And so it's nice to get to hear their stories, and a lot of them have had this disease for 20, 30 years, for most of their life actually. And it's nice to hear their stories and hear how they're doing and what they went through, and say, they went through this, I can go through this too. The last thing I wanted to put in this video is I wanted to talk about a really big opportunity I had with my disease that I wouldn't have had if I didn't have Crohn's, and that was over the summer of 2015, so this past summer, I went to Camp Oasis, which is a summer camp hosted by CCFA, or the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation of America. I will actually link their website in the down bar below. And this Camp Oasis is only for kids and teenagers with Crohn's and colitis. So basically it's a week-long camp, and mine was in August. I think there's 13 different camps across America and in different chapters. And it is such a great place, because for a week I was at this camp with 70, 80 other kids and teenagers who had the same disease I do. And there was no communication with people outside of this camp for 1 week, which was pretty awesome because for me, my story, my Camp Oasis story specifically, maybe I'll do a bigger video about this. I was in a cabin with 6 other girls and 2 counselors. So for this whole week we lived together and we all had the same disease except for one of us. One of us had colitis, which is like the sister disease of Crohn's disease, I guess. And we just got this week to bond and to talk about our disease and our experience, and we were the only people, for me at least, these were the only people I came across who would understand 100% what I went through, and I understood what they went through. And a lot of my cabin mates actually have had this disease since they were 3 or 4 years old, so they've had it their entire lives, and they know it like the back of their hand. And it was great to hear from them and hear what different treatments they went through and the other processes and procedures and different things that they experimented with, and just to hear what it was like for them and what the future might have for me. It brought me peace of mind and comfort. And these 6 or 7 girls are, oh my goodness, these 6 girls are now my absolute best friends. So that Camp Oasis was such a great experience for me. I can't wait to go back next year. And I'm really excited for what the rest of my life has in store for me. So basically that was it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you are enlightened, I guess, as to what my disease is. And if you want, do your own research on it, but I can warn you, if you have a light stomach, don't look at pictures. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment below, like this video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you next video. Bye!